Imagine this. You pull out your phone, open your investment app, and wow. Instead of the usual roller coaster, everything is green. I mean, the market is sitting at an absolute all-time high. Your friends are texting you, group chats are just going wild, everyone's popping the virtual champagne. But you? Well, you just feel this sudden, tight knot of anxiety in your chest.
And then that little voice creeps in, right? You think, okay, this has gone way too high. There is no way this lasts. It's bound to drop soon. You start doom scrolling financial news, and sure enough, you've got analysts yelling that valuations are overpriced, pundits are tossing around the terrifying B word, bubble. Honestly, the noise is just deafening.
So it brings us to the ultimate question. Should you sell right now? Or wait? Do you cash out, sit on the sidelines for the inevitable crash, and then swoop back in to buy it all on a massive discount? Listen, this right here, it's one of the most common and frankly one of the most dangerous decisions any investor has to make. So today in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly what the historical data tells us about what really happens after that exact thought crosses your mind.
Section 1. The tale of two choices, timing versus consistency.
Okay, so to really grasp what's at stake here, let's look at two totally different mindsets. Meet Dimas and Laris. Now Dimas, he's our market timer. Every time the market hits a peak, the guy starts sweating. And his logic kind of makes sense on the surface, right? He figures, hey, prices are up, so the downside risk has to be huge. So he pulls his money out, sits in cash, and waits for a dip. He feels responsible. He feels prudent. And then we have Laris. Laris literally could not care less if the market is at a record high or totally in the gutter. She just sticks to a relentless, boring, consistent schedule. Market's up, she buys. Market tanks, she buys. To Damas, Laris looks absolutely crazy, like she's totally misreading the room. But let's see whose strategy actually holds up to the numbers.
Real quick, before we get into those numbers though, a quick reminder. This explainer is strictly for educational purposes based on historical data. It's not financial advice. I'm definitely not giving you specific buy or sell orders here. Your investments are entirely yours to manage. Okay, let's keep going.
Section 2. The surprising historical data. 90 years of evidence.
Let's jump right into a massive, and I mean massive, research study from Vanguard. They looked at the S&P 500 from 1935 all the way to 2023. That is nearly 9 decades of market history, where the market hit an all-time high over 1,200 times. So Vanguard asked a really simple question. After hitting an all-time high, what actually happened over the next 12 months? The answer? It completely destroys Dima's logic. Check this out. If you invested your money right when the market was sitting at a terrifying, record-breaking peak, your average return over the next 12 months was actually 14.6% per year. But if you invested on just any random day in history, not a peak, your average return was only 12.6%. That's right. Historically speaking, throwing your money in at an all-time high has literally yielded better returns than investing on a totally ordinary day.
I know. You're probably thinking, wait, how on earth does that make sense? It feels completely backward to everything our human survival instincts scream at us. How is buying at the absolute top mathematically safer and more profitable? Well, to wrap our heads around this, we need to break down 3 fundamental mechanisms of how the market actually works.
Section 3. Mechanism 1. A sign of health, not danger.
Think of the stock market kind of like a giant escalator. People are always stepping on, stepping off, and yeah, occasionally someone stumbles backwards. But the mechanical direction of that escalator, it's always moving up. Over the long haul, economies grow, populations get bigger, companies make more money, and their fundamental value goes up. An all-time high really just means the escalator is working exactly the way it's supposed to. In fact, research from Ben Carlson at Ritholtz Wealth Management shows that 30%, literally almost a third, of all trading days in the history of the U.S. stock market have been all-time highs. So if you're like Dimas and you refuse to invest every single time the market hits a peak, you are actively choosing to sit out for a third of modern financial history. Crazy, right?
Moving on to Section 4. Mechanism 2. Corrections are inevitable, but unpredictable.
Now we gotta address the elephant in the room here. Dimas isn't totally crazy to be scared of corrections because, let's be real, corrections are 100% inevitable. The market does not just go straight up forever. The problem isn't that a correction is coming. The problem is that absolutely no one, no matter how smart they sound on TV, can predict exactly when it's going to happen. Take a look at this incredibly stark number right here, negative 14.3%. According to a massive study from JP Morgan Asset Management, from 1996 to 2015, the S&P 500 had an average intra-year drop of 14.3% every single year. Let that sink in for a second. Every single year, without fail, the market took a massive double-digit nosedive at some point.
But Here is the absolute kicker. Despite that terrifying 14% drop happening every year, in 15 out of those 20 years, the market actually rallied back and closed the year in positive territory. Temporary drops are just a feature of the stock market. They're not a bug. If Dimas pulls his cash out waiting for that perfect dip, he might be stuck on the sidelines for months while the market just keeps climbing higher and higher. And honestly, when that drop finally does hit, he's probably going to be so paralyzed by fear that he'll completely miss the rapid, unpredictable recovery that almost always follows right after.
Section 5. Mechanism 3. The hidden cost of cash.
This right here is the least talked about but easily the most destructive risk of trying to time the market. See, Dimas moves everything to cash because cash feels safe. No volatility, no crazy swings, right? But what he totally misses is that holding cash is actually bleeding his portfolio dry from the inside out. Cash has a massive hidden cost. Let's just walk through the math step by step. Step 1. Dimas sits in cash for 6 months, just waiting around for a crash. Step 2. While he's waiting, inflation is cruising along at say 4 to 5% a year. So he's already losing roughly 2 to 2.5% of his purchasing power just by sitting there doing nothing. Step 3. The market ignores his waiting and goes on a run, rising 8%. When you combine the invisible loss from inflation with those totally missed market gains, Dimas is suddenly sitting at a massive deficit of over 10%. Now, just to break even, he's forced to gamble on finding a perfectly timed, hyper-aggressive re-entry point. And guys, at that point, that's not investing anymore. That's literally just gambling.
Section 6. Important context and nuance.
Now, we can't just blindly throw our money at the wall based on broad historical averages. There are definitely layers of complexity here, and we have to acknowledge the context behind all these numbers. So here are 3 absolutely vital caveats you need to keep in mind. First up, U.S. market dominance. The data we just looked at heavily features the U.S. market, which is the world's biggest economy with a massive tech sector. Local markets in other countries might not always mirror that exact same unstoppable upward escalator. Second, index versus individual stock. An index is like a self-cleansing machine. It kicks out the dying companies and adds in the thriving ones. An individual stock, well, that can hit an all-time high today and literally go bankrupt next year. So this whole buy-the-peak logic really applies mostly to highly diversified index funds. And third, fundamental growth versus speculative euphoria. An all-time high that's backed by actual, real-world corporate profits is a completely different beast than the wild speculation-fueled dot-com bubble we saw back in the year 2000. So yeah, context definitely matters.
Section 7. How to invest now. Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've looked at the hard data. Let's pivot to some practical action. If you're sitting there right now, totally stressing over market peak anxiety, what should you actually do? Well, here is your concrete checklist. Number 1, assess your long-term horizon. Ask yourself, do I really have enough time to ride out whatever turbulence comes my way? Because if you're investing for a retirement that is 10, 20 years down the road, today's peak literally does not matter. Number 2, if dropping a massive lump sum at a peak still gives you a panic attack, that's okay, use a gradual entry. Spread your investments out over the next 3 to 6 months. Mathematically, it might not be absolutely perfect, but psychologically, it keeps you in the game instead of paralyzed on the sidelines holding cash. And number 3, focus only on what you can control. You cannot control the market, nobody can, but you can absolutely control how much you invest, how consistently you do it, and your ability to just turn off the TV and ignore those noisy pundits.
Which brings us to this incredibly powerful summary of everything we've unpacked today from nearly 90 years of market history. Today's peak, in long-term perspective, almost always becomes tomorrow's floor. Think about that. Dimas might technically be right eventually, a correction will happen, but the cost of sitting around waiting for it is historically way, way higher than the cost of simply enduring it. Laura's wins in the end because she's not out here trying to outsmart the global economy. She's just refusing to get in the way of her own compounding growth.
So what is the big takeaway from this explainer? Choose to stay in even when everyone else is questioning it. The most profitable decision you'll ever make isn't about finding that magical, perfect moment to jump in or out. It's just about enduring the noise. Now, why is it so incredibly difficult for us to actually do that? Well, in an upcoming explainer, we're going to dive deep into the actual biology of investing. We'll look at why our human brains are literally hardwired to fail at long-term wealth building and, much more importantly, how you can fight back against your own instincts. You definitely won't want to miss that one. But until then, ask yourself this. The next time your portfolio hits a record-breaking all-time high, are you going to let fear push you to the sidelines, or are you going to trust the long-term mechanics of the market to just keep moving you forward?